Hey everyone, Fine here. Today I will be unboxing and reviewing the 8BitDo arcade stick. So this is an entry-level arcade stick worth 2,695 pesos, which is around 55 US dollars. So without further ado, let's begin this unboxing. To be honest, at first I had a arcade stick, the Mayflash F300, but I modified it to be a hitbox controller. So I wanted to have another controller that had an arcade stick, but I didn't want to spend too much, so I bought this really cheap arcade stick. It's even cheaper than the Mayflash F300 actually. So as you can see, oops. This is what it looks like in the packaging. They have one small compartment where they put the wires and the typical foams that they use for most arcade boxes. Oh, let's pull this out. And let's put this aside. Here I'm going to show you how it looks like. So it doesn't have any wire because again it's separated in a different compartment from the foam, and this is what the front looks like. So it has a little paper here because the details here aren't complete, it's all in letters, so they have this to explain to you. Right here on the most right side is the mode. It means switch and X input because the 8BitDo arcade stick can work for the Nintendo Switch and PC. Only those two, by the way. It doesn't work on PlayStation 3 or 4 or any other console aside from Switch and PC. Next is the left stick, the D-pad, and the right stick. You can set for what movement the stick is gonna do. It's either gonna be left stick, right stick, or D-pad, which is pretty useful because some games you can only move through either left stick or right stick, so you can easily set it here. So for this next one, this next symbol right here that looks like, you know, Wi-Fi signal, pretty much, this is for the Bluetooth pairing. The next will be the turbo button. A lot of arcade sticks have turbo buttons. It'll make it look like you've been pressing one button repeatedly, so in some cases it can be useful, sometimes you don't really use it. Next, the last button, the blue one right here, is the home button. It's pretty self-explanatory. A lot of controllers can have a home button. Next, we have the start, select, and BT 2.4G switch here. This is for the Bluetooth and 2.4G connection, and select and start, the usual buttons you have for an arcade stick. Oh, this is also important. The four dots you have right here are the LED lights that can tell you if the arcade stick is turned on or it's pairing with Bluetooth or using a 2.4G connection. So as you can see here, it has 8 buttons, and it has 2 macro buttons, the player 1 and player 2. You have the standard 8 buttons right here. And the usual arcade stick. It looks really nice now I'm looking at it, because it looks so retro. It's meant to look like an NES controller, you know? Now let's take a look at the other features from the sides, front parts of the arcade stick. So here on the front we have a small compartment here. Let's open it. So here we have the 2.4G USB. There we go. Why is it backwards? There we go. It's Bluetooth and 2.4G, but this USB right here, this flash drive is used for 2.4G connection because that's 2.4G is a connection that only works by using this flash drive right here as a receiver. And if you you can see it, if I can light it properly. You can't really see it well, but there is a little slot there where you can put in the wire if you want to use wired connection. Let's close that. Let's see, on the sides there's nothing. The front there is nothing. So it's really just on the front for the wired connection and 2.4G container. On the bottom you have these little pads right here. It's usually where you put your legs. Oh wait, no, sorry, where you put it on your lap. And a little bit of details here of what the 8BitDo is about. The model, the input, the usual stuff. This thing is a lot heavier than I thought it would be, honestly. Let's take a look. Sees. Let's put these foam away. So we're gonna use it now. So now that we've seen what it looks like, let's give it a test. Here I'm gonna use the wired connection. As you can see here, it's connected to my computer right now. I will be trying this stick right now on Street Fighter 5. So the first thing you should do is the switch. Remember the switch for the S and X, which is namely for the switch and X input. If you're gonna use like PC, of course you're gonna have to switch it to the X, and you can see it lights up, and then it should appear on your PC that it's setting up the controller. Alright guys, before I continue opening Street Fighter 5, I would like to show you something. So apparently on the instruction manual you can program these two macro buttons. It's not player 1 or player 2 apparently. My bad. It's just P1 and P2. That's just what it's labeled as for macro buttons. And they have a link here so you can use it to macro these. In their official website, support.8bit.com, you want to open Ultimate Software. That's for the 8BitDo arcade stick. So here, you can download it. For Windows, download back. Of course, I'm on Windows, so I'm going to open Windows. It's going to be downloading. And now we have the software right here. Open the application. Oh, and apparently there's a firmware update for 8BitDo. Of course, it'd be best if we update this. Oh, might get a few. Been disconnecting every now and then, as you might hear. Oh. So here we have the software for the 8BitDo arcade stick. Everything's labeled here, as well as the P1 and P2. It says N here. Pretty sure it stands for NA. That you can't use it. On the right side here, on the right side of the window, we can manually set these other buttons to the way we want them to. We can change X as A. We can also change it back. Of course, I want to keep all the default. The only thing I want to mess around with right now is the macro buttons. So let's move on to the macro section right here. And here we are. When you want to add a macro, just press this plus right here and select which button you want to set it to. So, for example, I'm going to set it to 1. I'm going to be testing out Ryu in Street Fighter 5, so let's try macroing his Shoryuken. So we have forward, then we press add, press down, add, and we press down forward and add it again. So now that we need an input, we need to add his fierce or any other button, any punch button that we can use. So as for our orientation here, we have the X, Y, and RB buttons here. So I will be using the Y button. Here we are, we have the Shoryuken input and we can press enter. Now that we have a P1 macro, let's set another one for P2 so we can test both at the same time. Let's make it his super. and now we added it. Now we are able to set our P1 and P2 macros. Now it's time to open up Street Fighter V. Oh, and I also almost forgot to mention to you guys, right before you do open any game, you sync your controller. You make sure you sync your controller. Otherwise you can't use it. So profile name, let's say Ryu. Do I need a profile description too? Oh, whatever. Please turn off software after customization in order for the controller to return to its required mode or playing games on USB connection. Okay, so here we are at Street Fighter V training mode with Ryu. So let's test out his buttons. His light punch, medium punch, hard punch, and his 3-punch button. We also have his light kicks, medium kicks, hard kick, and his 3 kicks. So far all of the buttons that you will be using necessarily for the game are all working. Now, since we programmed these 2 macro buttons for Ryu to do his special moves and super, let's test it out. So for the P1, it's supposed to do his Shoryuken. As you can see, at the press of a button, you can do a Shoryuken. And P2 is programmed to be his super. And there we go. At the push of a button, you can do a super. So of course, if you combine these 2 together, you can make easy cancels like that. But of course, as a PC player, as a normal average fighting game player, I recommend not relying too much on these macros because, you know, that's not the fun of the fighting games, especially on Street Fighter. The fun is being able to do the motion inputs yourself. But that's all personal preference. Just like that. Now that we've tested most of the features for the 8BitDo, let's check out the remaining. Let's check the highlight, which is the wireless connections. The first thing we're gonna try is the 2.4G connection. Now that we're gonna try the 2.4G, just be sure to set your switch to the 2.4G connection right here. And next thing we're gonna do, we're not gonna use the wired anymore. We're gonna take out this little flash drive that is for the 2.4G connection. Like this. Let's remove the wired. Right down there. As soon as you connect the 2.4G flash drive, it will be automatically connecting for your device. So I'm gonna demonstrate again in Street Fighter V. This is 2.4G connection. It's wireless right here. I only have the flash drive that was connected to my PC. If you ever try switching from wired to 2.4G connection and it doesn't work, just try switching back the mode button to on and off. So here we are. So there's barely any lag, from how I see it at least. It's fast. It's pretty decent. It's pretty good. There's barely any lag. Unfortunately, I couldn't get Bluetooth to work no matter what. I tried to pair it, I tried to turn on and off the entire controller, and it still isn't discoverable by my computer. I'm not sure if my computer has a problem or I'm just doing the whole process wrong, but even so, I can still use the 2.4G connection, which is working just fine with barely no lag that I can see from my own gameplay. You can see my own gameplay and there's barely any lag at all. And even if I didn't have my 2.4G, I also have the wired connection. For the price that it's given, this arcade stick is pretty good. If you want to try an arcade stick, this is probably your best choice. Unless of course you're going to play on console, you're better off looking for something else. This arcade stick is purely for PC only, and it's so convenient with the wireless connection and wired connection. My verdict, my rating for this arcade stick is An 8 out of 10. I mean, this is the first time I own something wireless. That's really good. I'm surprised by how many features this arcade stick has. It even has macros, it has wireless connection, and I've also heard that this can be easily moddable, customizable. I might make another video about that in the future. But other than that, this is a hefty arcade stick. If you're looking to use any arcade stick, this is probably your best bet. So that'll be all for today. Tell me in the comments if you enjoyed the video, if there have any other questions, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya!